Reboot your credit card with Apple Card. It gives you unlimited daily cash back that can earn 4.15% annual percentage yield when you open a savings account. A high-yield, low-effort way to grow your money with no fees. Apply for Apple Card now in the Wallet app on iPhone to start earning and growing your daily cash with savings today. Apple Card subject to credit approval. Savings is available to Apple Card owners, subject to eligibility. Savings accounts by Goldman Sachs Bank USA. Member FDIC. Terms apply.
You are listening to the Hiking Radio Network, where we talk the walk with shows by hikers, about hikers, for everybody.
I'm wondering if you'd go wandering with me through the wilderness and woods to where the winds are blowing free, through the darkness of the night, heading toward the morning.
Welcome to the Jester Section Hiker Podcast with the spotlight on section hikers.
And I'll spread the word and you beat the drum. We'll round up the troops and get the gang to come. And we'll leave the streets and these neighborhoods, head over the river and through the woods.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Jester Section Hiker Podcast, your premier podcast with the spotlight on section hikers, and I am your host, Julie Jester Gayhart. As promised, I am bringing back to the show Dr. Aaron Pospisil, who appeared for the first time as a guest back in episode number 79. In that show, he shared with us that section hiking the Buckeye Trail literally saved his life. It's a very candid episode and proves that hiking is incredibly powerful. I highly recommend going back and listening to that show to find out more about Dr. Aaron and why section hiking will always be a part of his life. Dr. Aaron agreed to come back and join me for what I am calling a veterinarian Q&A. I put a post out on Instagram to see if you all had questions about hiking with your dog, or maybe had questions because you're actually thinking about getting a dog to go on your section hikes with. And I have to say, you guys came back with some awesome questions for Dr. Aaron. I narrowed down the questions, combined a few, so today we have 10 questions from you, the listeners, for me to ask and get answers to. Of course, we'll catch up for a few minutes, find out what Dr. Aaron's progression is on the Buckeye Trail, and find out how things are going with his newest family member. Thanks for joining me. If this is your first time to the podcast, thanks for tuning in. And now on to our Q&A with our very own section hiking veterinarian. And stick around after Dr. Aaron to hear a chat with Skunk Ape about this year's upcoming HangCon. All right, you guys, please welcome back to the podcast our very own section hiking veterinarian, Dr. Aaron. Welcome back, Dr. Aaron.
Thank you. It's been an adventure getting here.
Yes, it has. And we should just go ahead and tell the listeners, we have had some technical difficulty that I don't understand with our recording software. And I am now staring at Dr. Aaron's blank screen. I don't see him. So it's really weird.
Yeah, it's fine. I can still see you, so it's easy on my end. But
all right, so let's get started. First and foremost, I have to congratulate you on your newest member of your family. So tell us a little bit about your newest member.
Yeah, we have Evan now. He is 3 months old as of yesterday. And I now understand how everybody functions so much better with a newborn versus the first one, because this one sleeps and it's a lot easier. So I didn't know it could be this easy.
So if this one sleeps, does the first one sleep now?
Sometimes.
Okay. So you're somewhat on a pattern. So
yeah,
are you sleeping at night?
Better. Yes, much better.
Okay. And the baby was born when?
September 11th.
Okay. So basically, from the last time you were on, which was episode 79, you've been a little busy.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Which leads me to, I saw a recent Facebook post of yours. And if you guys will remember last time from episode number 79, Dr. Aaron talks in percentages instead of miles hiked, which I love. And I think you left off, you were at 17% complete of the Buckeye Trail, and now you've said you're at 25%. So tell us what you've been doing.
A little bit here and there. I finished up my 100 miles on the NCT. So it's like 800 miles or whatever run with the Buckeye Trail, mostly through Southern Ohio. Then I've picked up some miles north that I had to clean up. It's unfortunately been a lot of road in the Northeast Ohio road is not like Southern Ohio because people live there. So that part's a little less fun. It's like walking through neighborhoods, but those are almost over. So,
well, do you get the questions like, what the heck are you doing?
yeah, sometimes. And that's part of why I don't like it up there. Like if I'm in Southern Ohio and I'm walking down a dirt road, I'll have like 7 people stop and ask me if I need a ride. And those are like the only 7 people you see the entire day. But in Northeastern Ohio, you just look like you're homeless.
That's all right, right?
That doesn't bother me, but
so 25% complete, and congratulations on the 100 miles on the North Country Trail. That's awesome.
Yeah, you get a fancy patch. It's fun.
Yeah. So before we get into these 10 listener questions, I'll go ahead and ask you. So for 2022, do you have a certain percentage that you want additional miles hiked on the Buckeye Trail?
Oh, I'd love to get another 15 to 20%. I don't think that'll happen. I can't go on my days off like I did with the first one because I don't know how to walk with 2 babies at this point. And then
I don't know. You're innovative enough. You might figure that out.
Yeah, maybe. We'll see. I mean, if it's something paved, I can use a stroller, but I'm starting to get farther and farther away from home. I've done most of the easy stuff, but we'll see. I have more backpacking planned for next year than I've done in the past, so.
Excellent, excellent. So you know what that means. You're going to have to come back on and fill us in. And you've also got your podcast, The Critter Chronicles. And I know you've gone on a little bit of a hiatus because you've got a newborn and your hands are full. So tell us a little bit about, do you plan on revamping that back up at the beginning of the year?
Yeah, January 1st. Well, it probably won't be exactly the 1st, but sometime after the new year, I'm going to get started again. I have an episode in the queue. It's ready to roll out. And then I've got some fun things that I'm hoping to get done. I have some contacts. One's a zoo veterinarian, which will be really interesting. And then some other odds and ends folks as well. So yeah, that's the plan. Hopefully that continues. I'm really excited to start recording again now that I'm getting sleep and have time to do it. It'll be good. So,
well, I'll tell you, I miss it because I looked forward to it because it was totally not hiking. And we had that conversation before. So hearing an episode with a zoo veterinarian, that would be great. So I look forward to that.
Me too. I have a couple friends who practice zoo medicine, and I love it when they call me because it's pretty similar to what I do with large animals. But they'll be like, well, how would you treat this goat? And then they'll say, all right, well, let's say that there was only like a couple hundred of these goats left. I said, oh, okay, well, this is a little higher
my
stakes.
God.
So, yeah.
I cannot imagine. I think I said that several times on your episode before too. So, well, let's get right to these 10 questions.
Right.
These are actually, I threw it out on Instagram, asked people to send me questions, kind of put them in somewhat of order. So question number 1, Dr. Aaron, what breeds actually make good long-term hiking dogs?
Yeah, so this is a good question. These are all good questions. I'll probably say that on every one of these, but this is going to vary a lot depending on where you are. The only flat rule I'm going to say is bulldogs and pugs and the other snub-nosed breeds, they're not going to be your choice. Don't do that to them. Don't do that to yourself. They were not designed to breathe. They were not designed to exercise. So other than that, I don't have huge, passionate arguments for any sort of breed, yes or no. When my wife and I were backpacking in Olympic on the beach, there was a lady with her dachshund, and she would just pick them up to the big rock, and then he would run across it, and then she'd set him back down. So if you're willing to do that, your dachshund can make a great hiking partner. I don't know if there's a book by Tom Ryan called Following Atticus. I don't know if you've ever read it. But
I have not.
He's a 48er in the whites, but he did them all in the winter with this little schnauzer. So, I mean,
Oh,
that would
wow.
not be the dog I would think to go hike the whites in the winter with, but he did it multiple times. So if they can do it, pretty much anybody can do it. You just need to be careful with them.
And I like how you answered that though for the breeds. Don't do the dog a disservice. That's probably the best thing I've ever heard because I mean, the hike, it really ends up being your dog's hike.
Yeah.
Like you said, you have to pick the dog up and set it on the rock or what have you. So I really like that answer. So be careful which dog you choose, but don't do your dog a disservice. So I thought
Yep.
that's great.
I always tell clients, if they come in and they're a little bit shy and we're worried about them being a bite risk, I don't want to set a dog up for failure. So putting a muzzle on your dog is to protect it as well as me. Let's just not give anybody an opportunity to do anything stupid, and that's a much better plan. And, kind of in those same ways, don't set your dog up for failure beyond its characteristics of breed, but especially with its health. So if you have a really fat dog, it's not gonna do the things that you want it to do. It's just not. So don't
And I was just going to say, we've all seen the fat dog on the trail.
yeah.
So there you go.
And it's not having fun. It doesn't want to do that. If it's sat on the couch all year, just like you have, it's not going to bound up the mountain. It's just not going to
No,
do
it's
that.
not. And believe me, I've been there too. So there you go.
Me too.
All right, number 2. So if you get a new puppy, how long should you wait before you introduce them to the trail for shorter hikes? Because I've heard various things. And are there limits once they're full grown?
So I don't have a solid answer on, is there a definite date that you need to wait? My biggest concern is going to be disease risk, especially if you're going to be hiking within anywhere that there's going to be other dogs present. So at minimum, they need to be fully vaccinated. So if we go off of the AHA guidelines, which is American Animal Hospital Association, they recommend at least 2 doses of viral combo after 12 weeks of age in order to be fully protected. So at that point, you're going to be safe from distemper, you're going to be safe from parvo. And not just dogs carry these things. I mean, raccoons can carry distemper. I mean, there are other ways that your dogs are going to get exposed to these diseases, which is a big part of the reason why I'm very passionate about vaccines. But that's going to be the absolute minimum. From there, you're going to want to slowly work into it. We don't need to go take a 12-week-old puppy and throw it on a 30-mile hike. That's a recipe
No.
for disaster.
Well, just like a human. And that kind of
Yeah.
dispels the myth that I've always heard is, don't hike with your dog until after it's a year old. It starts growing into its paws and things like that. And I don't know if that's just old school thinking or are there, I guess, what are the time frames in between the vaccines? I guess that would, give you an indication, okay, they've been vaccinated. Here we go.
They're going to have, so puppies should get vaccinated starting at 6 weeks and then go every 3 to 4 weeks until about 16 to 20 weeks of age, depending on how the timing works out. If they're in a high risk situation, so like if you have a breeding kennel, you should go ahead and do that 3rd dose up to 20 weeks. But beyond that, most dogs aren't going to be that at risk. The only caveat I'll say as far as like joints and protecting joints are going to be in your giant breed puppies. So your St. Bernards, your Great Danes, those kind of ones you'll want to be a little more cautious with. They're growing longer. They're more apt to get some problems with developing limbs, that kind of thing. But other than that, it's not like we don't need to do crazy things with young dogs. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
But if you're going to go do 5 miles on a decent trail, bones are great at remodeling. Bones are going to design themselves basically to fit the needs of the dog. So if the dog is telling it this is what its body needs to do, the body's going to adjust to that.
And that brings up a question that I have in my own mind. So we're going to have 10.5. I'm going to call this a half of a question.
Okay.
So I've also heard of, different breeds that are more prone to like hip dysplasia or, having bad knees. Is that a myth or
No.
are there a couple breeds? Okay.
No, that's absolutely a thing. And so this will probably go back to, I'm going to say this is answer 1.5. So instead of breed by itself, there are some other things you can look for to set a dog up for success too. So things like the Orthopedic Foundation of America, so the OFA certifications are going to be additional x-rays and things done on the parents of puppies. And just because parents' hips and elbows and knees are good does not necessarily mean the puppies are going to, but it's a higher chance, right? So looking for those kind of certifications are going to be good things. Usually those puppies are going to cost a little bit more since they had to pay to get the testing done. But usually you're going to see that return on investment in longevity. And then, so yeah, hip dysplasia, elbow dysplasia, those are real things. Things like German Shepherds, Labradors, Bernese Mountain Dogs can have some really cruddy elbows. There's a really long list, so I won't go into just a ton of them there, but those are all realities. And just because we have dysplasia, so dysplasia just means malformed. It means from birth, something was programmed incorrectly and these did not develop into the joints that they should have looked like. It doesn't mean that necessarily that this dog will never have any sort of active life, but it usually does mean they're going to get arthritis earlier. There's a lot more options for managing arthritis now than there ever have been in the past. Some of them are really easy, like giving anti-inflammatories, be the same as us taking a leave before we go on a hike. But then there's also more advanced things like knee injections and hip replacements that they're costly, but they're there.
And that brings up here we are with another question that's not on here. Because so giving medications to your dog, that's not a bad thing. You just, for inflammation and things like that. Because a lot of times it's like, oh no, you don't want to give your dog this. You don't want to give your dog that.
So yes, with a big old asterisk on it. Those are going to be drugs that your veterinarian gave you, nothing that you got off the shelf yourself. There's nothing over the counter that is a good option for a dog for pain relief. Aspirin is okay. I think we would all agree that aspirin kind of sucks as a pain medication in general, human and anything. And the other thing that happens is if you give aspirin, I can't give my anti-inflammatories because the stomach ulcer risk gets really, really high. So I would rather you just be in pain for an extra 24 hours until you can get in to see me than I would be for you to try to give aspirin. But definitely no ibuprofen, definitely no Tylenol, definitely no Aleve. Those things are all really dangerous.
And it sounds like to me, people just need to have a good relationship with their veterinarian. And, if you're going to go out hiking, take your dog to see the vet and see what's going to work for your particular individual breed of dog was what it sounds like to me.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's a question further in the list that goes more detail
we
on
may
that,
have just answered that. All right, let's get to number 3. So, cool. Say we've got our dog and, we're ready to go out on some hikes. So what are some good brands or types of food to feed your dog on a normal basis, especially if you plan to have them very active?
Yeah, so this is a question that I'm probably going to get the most hate on because people have very, very strong opinions on dog food.
Listen, you're the veterinarian, so I go with you.
Well, and I will also say that all of the nutrition-related questions on here, I reached out to the veterinary nutritionist at Ohio State. So thank you, Dr. Valerie Parker, for that insight as well on all of these, because I wanted to make sure that I was as up to date, and I'm not a nutritionist. So she is a veterinarian who then went and got extra training and got boarded credentials specifically in nutrition. She's also an internal medicine specialist. So she's got a lot of extra education behind her that I will never have. But she's an awesome resource, and there's a lot of those kind of people that work for these big name dog food brands. And so that's why I typically recommend things like Purina, Science Diet, Royal Canin, Iams, Eukanuba, because they have veterinary nutritionists on staff, and I know that. They're constantly doing nutrition studies. They're constantly putting out that research. Most of it's open access so that anybody can read it. It's not behind a paywall. And that goes a really long way. There's a lot of boutique brands out there. The problem with the boutique brands is I can't say that any of them are bad. The problem is I don't know. I don't know who they have on staff. They may have a PhD nutritionist or a master's nutritionist on staff, which is fine. I trust those people as well. The problem is I don't know, and there's no great way to fact check it. And there's so many brands of dog food. it would be impossible for me to even begin to know all of them. So,
well, and that's a good start. I mean, you pretty much said, the brands that you noted are because of the doctors that are working, or specific veterinarians and their research and their degrees behind them. So question number 4 revolves around snacks. Would you say the same thing for snacks for your dog?
Snacks are a little bit more flexible because it shouldn't be the bulk of your dog's calories. And for that, I'm looking at so there's a couple different options. So one, you just use your regular dog food as a snack. Dogs are not people. They're never going to be as intelligent as a person, which is sometimes really useful. It is a pain to medicate my 3-year-old. Anytime I have to give him medicine, it's a battle. A dog sometimes is really easy. Not all dogs. And if you have one of those dogs that's not really easy, God bless you, and I'm sorry. But so sometimes just giving regular kibble is enough for them to think that they're getting a snack. They don't know the difference between that and a piece of candy, unlike my toddler. But, things like fruits, vegetables are going to be awesome low-calorie snacks. They're not going to add a bunch of calories that we don't need. Never grapes, avocados, cherries, mushrooms, or onions. So none of those, but things like carrots, apples, bananas, those are all great. And your dog doesn't care if it's smashed in your backpack when you give it to him either, which is also nice. So those are great. Homemade treats are fine. So doing things like kind of a homemade Cliff Bar type of thing is fine. Again, just watch your calories. If it's a 5-mile hike, your dog really doesn't need that many extra calories. They're going to be more at risk of getting more calories than they need than they are losing too much weight.
And I should ask you this too. Are dogs actually allergic to chocolate?
They're not allergic to it. There's a chemical compound in chocolate that they don't process the same way that we do. So it does become toxic.
Good to know, because I didn't know if that was one of those things, like a question that would come up, myth or fact. So that is actually a fact.
That's a fact. And the darker the chocolate is, the more there is. So like if you call me and say that your 100-pound lab ate a Hershey bar, I don't care. It's going to be fine. It's going to get diarrhea, but it's going to be fine. If you call and say that your Pomeranian ate a box of Baker's chocolate, we got a problem.
Bring them in. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. So
the other thing I'll say about food, I'm going to send you a couple links I forgot to send you that goes through like ingredients and what specific words mean. So like byproduct is a really hot word, right? So people use that in their marketing that we don't have byproduct in our food. Most of the time they actually do, but they just don't name it that. So what byproduct is simply means organ meat, heads, not hooves, not toenails, not beaks, not feathers. It's anything that's not muscle, basically, except for those things I just listed. So intestines, hearts, things that your dog would love to eat if it found them in nature. So that's all that means. And then meal simply means that it was meat that was ground into a meal and then added. It doesn't mean that it's anything necessarily disgusting.
That is interesting. So yeah, so if you send me those links, I will definitely put that in the show notes because I know people are interested in that.
Yeah.
So, all right, question number 5, should your dog be on vitamins and when should they, if you have a healthy dog and it's, the owner and the dog are following protocol, how often should they visit the vet?
So supplements are going to be as needed by your dog's individual needs, right? So in general, if they're being fed a super balanced diet from any of the conventional brands, they're mostly getting everything that they need there just because they're formulated for that purpose. There may be extra things that your vet recommends for your animal depending on its individual needs. One of the most common would be joint supplements. If you have a really active dog, that's probably a really good thing to think about having your dog on. The thing that gets tricky with supplements is supplements have no FDA approval process, so we don't always know what's in them unless they come from a trusted company. So Cosequin, Dasequin, those are great joint supplements. There's probably others that are really good. They're not on my shelf because I don't necessarily know how good they are.
So that kind of leads into, well, all of these questions lead into the next one. So the next question is calories.
Well, hold
And
on.
I'm going.
We didn't get to
Okay.
regular vet visits yet.
Oh, we didn't. I'm sorry.
No, that's a big one. We got to talk about that one.
Yes, we do.
So I love that somebody basically asks, should your dog go to the vet regularly? Obviously, I'm going to say yes. I'm a veterinarian. But yes, your dog absolutely needs regular vet visits. So the reasons that your dog needs to go to the vet yearly is because, and potentially more, and we'll talk about that in just a second, but if they need to go yearly so that we find problems earlier, if we have, especially, a 6, 7, 8-year-old dog that we run blood work on yearly, I can find kidney disease before you start telling me about the signs of kidney disease. That's huge in how much longer your dog is going to stay around, right? So you're going to develop a better relationship with me so that when you have concerns, you're going to have a trusted partner for you to ask questions to. The other thing, and this is a bad thing, I admit, but let's be really honest. Who do you think I'm more likely to bend over backwards to squeeze into my overbooked appointment calendar? Somebody I see every 4 years or someone I see every 6 months? If I know you, man, I'm going to bend over backwards to make sure that you get your dog in here, right? So, and then as your dogs get older, they're going to get more chronic diseases. That just happens, right? If you have a small breed dog, it's probably going to get heart disease. If you have a lab, it's probably going to get arthritis. That means more visits. That means more blood work. Go ask your grandparents how often they go to the doctor and get blood drawn. It's often, right? And that's the equivalent to an 8-year-old dog.
Well, I look at it like this: it's preventative. I mean, you just said, that kidney disease. I mean, I think a lot of dogs end up getting that, don't they, as they get older?
It's not infrequent, but I mean, that's just one example, right? I mean, there's a lot of things, whether kidneys, livers, hearts, all these things can wear out, right? And so if I find it soon, we can do something about it a lot better.
Yes, I'm glad we did not skip that question. So people, get to know your veterinarian. Take care of your veterinarian. And yes, I say
bring us cookies.
Bring your veterinarian cookies. Don't be mean to your veterinarian, okay? Don't do. All right. So number 6. So on the trail, obviously, humans, we have to eat. We have to eat more calories on the trail than we would. So what is a good ratio for dogs? And I know that's kind of tough because I know for me, we fed our dogs like once a day.
Yeah.
That's just how I grew up. You fed your dog once a day. And if the other dog didn't eat their food, then the other dog would go eat their food. That's just the way it worked.
Yeah.
So what is your recommendation on how often on a regular, is once a day good? And then if you're on trail, what do you do?
Every dog is going to be a little bit different. There are some medical reasons why we should feed more often, but in general, if your dog does fine on once a day feeding, it's not a huge deal. Dogs are not wolves. We're very clear on that fact. But if we look evolutionarily at what dogs did, right, they would typically eat and then fast, eat and then fast. I mean, that's what their digestive system was made to do. Even as we domesticated them, that's what they were going to do because they were going to get fed after people got fed, right? I mean, that's just the reality of what dogs did. So it's not as crucial, I don't think, as with people. Their muscle is very different than human muscle. The way they're going to process energy is different than we do. But in general, it's not a huge deal that we feed them as often as we feed people. So the amount of calories that a dog needs, I'm going to have a good handout link on this too, but basically there's a math formula. It's body weight in kilograms to the 3/4 power times 70. That finds resting energy requirement.
I'm glad that's going to be on paper.
Yeah. It's really not hard. It's really not hard. But the 3/4 power throws people. All that is you cube something and then square root it twice.
Well, you got to remember, I can't see you, so I'm trying to formulate this in my brain as you're saying.
That's true. Yes. Yes. So body weight in kilograms to the 3/4 power times 70. That's resting energy requirement. You can multiply that then from a factor of 1 to 5. That factor is the most variable part, and that's going to depend on things like age, sexually intact status. So a dog that has her ovaries or a dog that has his testicles has a lot higher energy requirement than a spayed female dog. Anybody who spayed their dog and then she gained 30 pounds between vet visits, that's the power of estrogen. So you need to keep those things in check.
Freaking estrogen,
A dog,
man.
Yeah. Yep. So, a dog, an overweight spayed female that's doing a 3-mile flat paved loop, she needs no extra calories. Please don't give her extra food. She needs to lose weight. Keep her at RER and just use that exercise towards the weight loss. Now, if we have a sexually intact male German Shepherd that's doing the AT and carrying all his own stuff, then a 3 to 4 times RER is probably appropriate for him. Ultimately, we're going to look at the dog, right? If the dog is gaining or losing weight, that's what we need to know. But for your average dog that's going hiking, once a week or something along those lines, we don't need to compensate with a bunch of extra calories. They're going to be fine.
Yes, we definitely need to have that information so I could put that in the show notes so I could look at that again. This question, I would just
absolutely
refer to my vet, Dr. Aaron. Okay, how much should I carry? And because I think that's one of the reasons that maybe subsection hikers and through hikers or even day hikers, they think they're going to be carrying a ton of dog food. That really doesn't sound the case.
No, they shouldn't be, unless, most dogs are going to be eating, for an average sized dog, 2 to 3 cups a day. If they're a large breed dog, 3 to 4 cups a day. And you can look for more energy dense foods too. So if you can find the calorie per pound on all dog foods out there, and just get denser ones, just like you do for yourself. And there are freeze dried options out there too. And I go eat Mountain House meals when I backpack. Is that good nutrition? No, it's not good nutrition.
No,
I know
but
that.
Mountain House is so good.
Is it going to kill me for a weekend? Yeah, right. No. Is it going to kill me in a weekend? No. So same thing with your dog. If be careful with switching foods, obviously for the diarrhea part. But if you take them onto a freeze-dried diet for a little while, even if it's not the perfect nutrition, it's not going to kill them for a weekend.
Well, thank goodness on that. So we have dispelled the myth of all, carrying 45 pounds of dog food on your day hike. So
it's literally, you just put backpacks on the whole dog food bag, huh?
Well, there you go. Yeah. I've seen it. I'm sure you've seen some weird stuff too. So it's crazy.
Yeah.
So in all seriousness, now we move to question number 7, which I think is vitally important because nothing pains me more than to see a dog on trail where I could tell like their little paws have not been taken care of. Like you could just tell their hygiene is not well. So do you recommend those what kind of, I call it the dog first aid kit. I'm sure there's a company out there that sells one, but what should someone carry 100% if they have a dog on the trail for first aid?
So most of the same stuff that's going to be in your kit is going to be fine. So like a triple antibiotic, ointment, that kind of stuff. You'll want something to keep them from being able to lick it off, would be the only thing. So athletic tape, a sock, something you can put on there. You should be able to figure something out on trail to make that happen with what you have.
I guess you could put KT tape on a dog's paw too, right?
Yeah, you could. Yeah. There's actually people, I don't know enough about this, but there are people who use K-tape on dogs like for pain and that kind of stuff. I would love to learn more about it, but have not ever had time. But fun fact. Anyway,
that's for next time. If you learn more about it, I'd love to hear. Yes. Because that could help with injury or something like that too.
Yeah. But so, it's going to depend a lot on your location and your dog and how long you're hiking. If you're on the AT for months at a time, it's going to be a whole different conversation than if you're just going on the weekends once in a while, right? So if you're going to, and it also depends, in my area, we're not on a ton of rock, so I'm not as worried about dogs' paws getting tore up. If you're hiking, some of the former volcanoes and stuff in California, that's going to tear dogs' paws up, right? So a good paw conditioner is never a bad thing, especially in winter. Musher's Secret is one that I usually recommend. I'm sure there's others out there, but that's always the one that I've always heard people say. And they make boots, right? So if you are going to go hike the whites in the winter, a pair of boots is probably good for your dog at that point. Something to keep their paws from getting frostbitten and getting really dried out as they walk on that ice is going to be a good thing. in general, dogs are designed for dirt and grime a lot better than we are. So as far as coat care, normal grooming routines are fine unless you're doing really intense long trips. But in my area, there's a lot of farm dogs that haven't had a bath in 3 or 4 months, and they're gross. I don't want to pet them, but their skin's fine. They're just a lot better at it than we are.
And they don't care if they stink.
No, not at all. They still try to climb in your truck.
There you go. So what are some signs if our dogs are having trouble, overheating, they're getting dehydrated? What can we look out for?
Yeah, absolutely. So they're going to look pretty similar to a lot of our signs, other than we don't pant. So if you see a dog that's wobbly, disoriented, weak, that's a sign that something's wrong. So whether that's either hypothermia or hyperthermia, those are both problems, right? A really dry nose. Different dogs have different degree of wet noses, right? So know your dog. But if it's a dog that normally is kind of moist and it's super dry, that's a little bit worrisome. Really thick drool. So again, that's also dog dependent. If you have a Saint Bernard that always has nasty drool, but if you see just really thick, gross drool, you've probably felt that in your mouth before. If you've ever been dehydrated while you're hiking, where your spit gets really thick, same idea. Panting that you can't get to slow down with rest is also a huge deal. So if your dog is just constantly panting and you stop and rest and he's not getting better, that's concerning.
And I think too is just learning your dog
Absolutely.
over time, spending that time with your dog and learning your dog. And the dogs that I've seen that I think might be in a little trouble, you could tell they don't go out much.
Yeah. Yeah. I would say that's probably pretty accurate. And it's just like people, right? I mean, I think most people that get called search and rescue on are not people who hike every weekend, right?
Right. Well, question number 9. I often have wondered this myself, so it was interesting somebody asked this. So, can your dog get giardia if drinking directly from puddles, streams, etc.? And I grew up, you just let your dog drink wherever, whatever, as long as they get water. So, is it bad? Should we filter the dog's water, I guess?
This was a cool question. And I had to think about this and do a little bit of research too. The short answer is yes, they can. Now, I say that in most adult dogs, I don't really care if they have giardia because most of the time it's not going to cause disease in the same way we are.
Okay.
In general, so it's all about dose, right? If a dog gets a huge dose of giardia, they can still definitely get a problem from that. But also remember that dogs are not people. Where they came from, they were a little better equipped to handle things going through their gut, right? Just like a dog can go out and eat a dead deer out of the ditch that's been there for 3 days. I can't do that without getting sick. They can.
Yeah.
So in general, the bigger risk for me is going to be picking up dog poop. So making sure that we're not spreading extra dose that way. Human stool is a whole other waste issue that also is potentially spreading that. So don't let it just wash away. Whoever's poop it is, dispose of it the right way. Puppies will be my caveat to this. Puppies can definitely get parasites very easily, right? So when we're talking about parasites, we're going to be talking about giardia. Giardia is not going to get covered in any of your monthly kind of dewormers. So if your dog's on a good heartworm prevention program, they're going to be pretty protected from intestinal worms, but they're not going to get covered from giardia because that's a whole different family of parasite. So if you are out hiking with a young dog and it develops diarrhea, that would be something worth mentioning to your veterinarian so they make sure to look for giardia. Things that are going to help are going to be keeping your dog in good gut health. So things like probiotics, good diet, all those things that are going to keep it up in good optimum health are going to help fight off those intruders a little bit better too.
And I would say you're not going to stop your dog drinking from the water.
No, that's natural behavior for them, right? I mean, that's, yep.
Yeah. So, all right, number 10. So, and this one's a good one too. Humans worry about ticks while hiking. While we know there are tick treatments for dogs, is there one tick treatment better than the other?
So this is also a really interesting question. And this is probably the second question where I get heat from people. But
That's all right. I get heat all the time.
Yeah,
Don't worry about it.
I'm very passionate about this one. So when I was in vet school, so I graduated in 2017, I would have learned about Lyme disease in 2013. At that time, I was told that Lyme disease was an East Coast and Upper Midwest problem. It was not in Ohio. Fast
Oh, that's
forward
interesting.
to 2021, I diagnosed Lyme disease almost weekly. And I don't
Wow.
just mean Lyme positive dogs. So dogs can be Lyme positive, meaning they were exposed to a tick that carried Lyme disease, fought the infection off, but now have antibodies to it. And we'll pick those up pretty routinely in our heartworm tests because they test for Lyme and other tick-borne diseases too in our practice and probably in a lot of people's practices. But I mean actual clinical have a fever, joint pain, Lyme disease dogs. It's such a problem. And I would say that if you are hiking with your dog and not on a good tick prevention program and potentially probably a Lyme vaccine, that one's a little more wishy-washy, and I won't put as hard a line on that one. But I would argue that you're being a completely irresponsible pet owner in that regard. So if you're in a Lyme endemic area, it's non-negotiable. You've got to be on a tick prevention program. And I would say that the vast majority of the country at this point is probably a Lyme endemic area. As
Gotcha.
far as there's 3 different ways that you can get tick prevention. So there's collars. I'm not going to use a lot of name brands in this talk because nobody pays me to do that. So I don't want to
Right.
I don't want to do that. The only one that I will say is the Seresto collar is the only collar that's worth spending money on. Any of the
Okay.
other over-the-counter collars are terrible. So don't use them. They don't work. It's not worth your time or effort. So if you're going to use a collar, that one's good. They last about 8 months, so it's a good option if you're forgetful. But if they spend a lot of time in the water or get a lot of baths, they won't last as long. Topicals are the ones that you put up on the back of the neck between the shoulder blades. Those ones work well if you use them right. Most of the time when people use those and they come in and they're not working, they either just gave the dog a bath and then put it on, or they gave a bath too soon after they put it on. So you need a good 3 days on either end of that so that the dog's oils are right for that product to work. So if your dog has fleas and then you go give it a bath and then go put that on, it's not going to fix your problem. So don't do that way. The oral products are probably my favorite because to me they're the most reliable. You can't really mess it up. If your dog eats it, it has the drug in it that it's going to need. I will say there's some caveats to that, and you should talk to your veterinarian. If your dog has epilepsy, then they can be a little bit at risk for lowering seizure threshold with those meds. If they're an allergy dog or have diet sensitivities, they may not be a good option. And then understanding how that product works, you're going to see ticks on your dog still. They're going to crawl around on your dog. They have to bite your dog in order for that one to kill them. But it takes 2 to 3 days, depending on which tick-borne disease, to transmit disease. So they're going to die long before that, but they are still going to bite the dog in order to die.
Interesting. So if they take it or eat it orally, how often is that? Because I know if you put the liquid on the back, it's every 3 months?
Most of those are monthly.
Monthly, okay.
Yeah, and most of the topicals are monthly as well. There is one oral 3-month product. I probably shouldn't say my opinion on it, but I'm not huge on it. I've seen a lot of dogs that are Lyme positive despite being on it. That company does a good job and does pay for treatment and testing if that's the case. So I will say good on them for that. But I just see way too many Lyme positive dogs on that one.
Gotcha. So again, each one of these questions, 1 through 10, please have a good relationship with your veterinarian. It, to me, really is the bottom line.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And the other thing is these need to be year round. These aren't just in the summer type of problem. In basically anytime you're above 40, you can have tick activity. So it's not like they die when winter happens. If that happened, we wouldn't have ticks again in the spring, right? It doesn't work that way. So they just go into a hibernation state, basically. Some of them can live in your house. So even if they could be arrested in your house somewhere, and then when the dog falls off the dog, they go into an arrest and they come back in and get warm. there's little mini micro environments. So like between two buildings, it could be above 40 degrees, whereas it's not out in the rest of the city. In a little rock cave, it may never get to be that cold, and they may be hiding in there. So it is important that they're on them year round.
That is my number one fear is a tick.
Me too.
I'm serious about a tick. Yeah, I'm not worried about bears or anything like that. I'm worried about a tick.
I am too. Lyme disease is real, and dogs actually, I think, are a lot better off in the fight against Lyme than we are because they have a vaccine. It's not a perfect vaccine, but it's decent. And they have tick prevention that I don't. Yeah, we can treat our clothes with permethrin, but that's really the best we can do.
Yeah, and then you got to remember to do it.
Right,
every 6 or 7 washes. I think it's every 6 washes. Yeah. Who does?
Right.
So. Yeah. I think everybody goes on I got to permethrin my clothes. And then, 3 months later, I need to
you find a tick on you and you go, oh, shoot. Yeah, I didn't do that later. Yeah. Yep.
Well, Dr. Aaron, I'm serious. This has been a wealth of information. And typically, this is the point where, I ask the guest to sign off for us. And I'm going to do the same with you. But I think you've got a different little twist for your sign off.
I do. These are going to be just a couple quick soapboxes on things that didn't get asked that I still think are really, really important. So kind of bouncing right off of ticks, heartworm is a huge concern everywhere in this country. If you own a dog, it needs to be on heartworm prevention. I will not budge on that unless there's a medical reason, and I can think of very few that aren't. So if there's a mosquito possibility, which I think just about anywhere, depending on the season, there's a mosquito possibility, there's a heartworm.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So that spread through mosquitoes, it's over $1,000 to treat. It's extraordinarily risky to treat. It's dangerous, and it's a real thing. So,
well, and it's preventable.
And it's 100% preventable.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, with the Aspergillus, there is some resistance that's starting to show up, especially in the deep South. But
great.
If your dog is on prevention and contracts heartworm disease, guess who pays for it? It's not you. It's the heartworm prevention company. So if nothing else, so you can pass the blame on to someone else. They need to
do your due diligence and use it. Okay, check. I agree. Yep. Ticks, check.
Yep.
Heartworm, check.
All right. So vaccines, we talked about a little bit. There are 2 kind of optional vaccines. One is leptospirosis. Lepto, for some reason, people have this ginormous prejudice against the lepto vaccine. I do know that 20, 30 years ago, there used to be a lot of allergic reactions to the lepto vaccine. We don't see that anymore. And if you're outside, lepto is spread by raccoons, deer. I mean, it can be in so many different animals. If they pee in a water source and your dog drinks it, they're at risk. And then you're at risk because that spreads from animals to people or from people to animals.
Oh, I was going to ask that. That's interesting.
Yeah. So you don't want kidney failure. You don't want your dog to go into kidney failure from that disease because it's preventable. Just do some lepto boosters. If your dog has a reaction to it, all of those are treatable, but it's worth the risk. Lyme, there's some questions about Lyme vaccination, and I'll let you discuss those with your veterinarian because that's a whole other topic, but that's one to consider. I'm pretty pro Lyme vaccine. We see a ton of Lyme disease in this area, so that's one I use a lot. So
I'm waiting for the next one. I'm like, all right, he's got to have another one.
I do. So we talked about making sure you pick a dog that is physically appropriate for trail. You need to have a dog that is behaviorally appropriate for trail. And I think Wheezy Pete did a really good job talking about that previously. Your dog has to be trained. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. If you have a puppy, I'm much more forgiving about your dog misbehaving. But if you have an adult dog, it can't chase a deer. It's unacceptable. It has to behave itself. And if you have a dog that has behavior pathology, if you have a really anxious dog or you have a dog that's dog aggressive, you need to take those extra steps to make sure things are right. So whether that's additional medications your dog needs to be on, whether that's muzzle training your dog, just because there's a leash rule and you do a really good job with your dog on leash, if he's dog aggressive and somebody brings their dog around who's not on a leash, you're still going to look like the a-hole if your dog bites them. I know that's not right, but just protect yourself and muzzle train your dog if that's what you're going to do with it. And that's fine to do. There's nothing wrong with your dog being comfortable wearing a muzzle.
That's not abusive.
No, not at all. There are comfortable ones out there, and if they're trained appropriately, it's a good thing.
There you go. That's safe. And Wheezy P is going to love you. And
I'm
if
good.
Wheezy P lived in Ohio, she'd be going to you right now.
Good.
You might need to become the traveling section hiker veterinarian.
Ugh, that's so many vet licenses. I don't want to. They're expensive.
Okay, never mind.
Yeah,
So.
I'm good. So,
all right. Is there anything else you can think of
I
you want
got
to
a
leave us
few
with?
more. Yeah.
All
So
right.
pick up your poop. We talked about that. Don't be ignorant.
Please.
Follow the rules.
Please.
If you're hiking an area that doesn't allow dogs, don't take your dog. Don't ruin it for everybody. Just don't be stupid. Follow the rules and do the right thing. Be prepared. If you're going somewhere, especially somewhere that's remote, be somewhat aware of what you're going to do in the case of an emergency with your dog. Kind of be aware of where the ER hospitals are. And I encourage you to have some money set aside in an emergency fund if that happens. Complex medicine and surgery gets really, really costly, especially if you're at the ER. If you have a broken leg or a torn ACL, you're going to spend thousands getting those repaired. So be ready for that. Allergies are a huge, huge thing in dogs, especially if they're going to be outside, especially if you're in the South. Here's the thing about allergies. They suck. They're complicated. And they're a pain in the butt for you and your veterinarian. If your dog is not easily controlled, I understand your frustration because trust me, I'm just as frustrated as you are if we're not getting it right. So the signs for that can be subtle: licking paws, frequent ear infections, licking at the anus, shaking the head. Those are all things you'll want to discuss with your vet if you're seeing those. And then lastly, if you're going to the vet right now, be nice. Just be a nice person.
Be nice. Yes.
We're so busy. We're slammed. We are only coming to work right now, especially our support staff. They do not get paid that much more than they could at anywhere other working location. Be nice to them. They're only here because they want to help your animals. So if you're waiting for a long time, it's probably because somebody else is having a really bad time ahead of you. So if we're delayed, usually that means an appointment ahead of us went really badly. So we found a mass we weren't expecting, or we diagnosed a disease that is much more complicated than the owner was expecting. It means we worked a really sick animal into the schedule. It means we had a hit by car or a C-section that threw the whole day off. We're sorry. It stresses us out too when we see that you're waiting for an hour. We don't like it. If we walk in and we're exasperated when we feel like you're rushing us, please make sure you ask all your questions. We don't want you to rush out the door. We don't want to rush you out the door, but we also see that there's 6 other things waiting. So we promise we want to give you the time that you deserve. We promise we're going to get to you. Now is the time to address things early so you don't end up in the ER at a 4 to 8 hour wait.
All right, you guys, be nice to your veterinarian. And Dr. Aaron, I promise you're going to have to come back on and do another episode because I have a feeling we're going to get way more questions. So do you agree to come back on?
Absolutely.
Yes, I love it. You're the section hiking veterinarian. Like, that's a wrap.
I never thought that would be my claim to fame, but I will take it.
You're 25% done with the Buckeye Trail.
Yeah.
So, so thank you for joining us. You're definitely welcome back on. I know we're going to get more questions. So I guess we'll leave this with, we'll see you next time, Dr. Aaron.
All right. Sounds good.
Thank you, Dr. Aaron, for joining us to answer specific listener questions regarding hiking with your dog. I know a lot of hikers having their 4-legged companion with them is extremely important. And because of your answers, we all now know more about keeping our dogs fed properly, groomed properly, and what signs to look for from our dogs to make sure they are staying safe on the trail. As promised, up next is my brief chat with Paul Collins, or you all know him as Skunk Ape, about all things HangCon. All right, you guys, it has actually been a long time since I have had a second part to the show or a second guest on the show, but I can't think of a better person to come on and talk to here for just a brief moment about something going on down in Florida. So you guys have heard me mention his name before, but he is here with me now. So please welcome with me to the show, Paul Collins, or as I always say, you all know him as Skunk Ape.
What's up, everybody? What's up, Jester?
Oh my God, so awesome to have you back on the show. It's been a while since you and AJ were on, and I met you guys, and you all convinced me to buy a hammock. I think that's what
Yeah.
went down, right?
Pretty much. That's when you met us up at the spring swing.
Yeah, that was the name of it. So we are here specifically to talk about HangCon and what you guys have going on down there in Florida, coming up here in a couple weeks. So first and foremost, the name of the event is HangCon, and it's one of the largest, right, in the United States.
It's the largest.
Oh, it is? Okay. Well, let me back up.
Yes.
The largest in the United States.
Yep. We have people come in from all over. And we have people already registered from California, Utah, up north, up in Ohio, and I mean, just all over the place. I think when AJ looked the other day, it was, I think 26 or 27 of the states already represented, basically.
Well, that is awesome. So Jester from North Carolina is going to be coming down there. So hopefully you have that one added in.
Yep.
So let's just get right to the logistics of the event. So give us the dates of the event.
Okay. So the dates are in January. It's from January 13th to the 17th. We always have it on the weekend of Martin Luther King. That way, it's a long weekend. It gives people extra time to be able to come down and enjoy it. They don't have to leave out, early on, Sunday morning or late Saturday night, to get back home, to go to work the next day, since most people are off on Monday anyhow. So it just gives a long weekend for everybody.
That is awesome, especially for me. I'm going to be driving back on that Monday. So where can people find you on your website?
Okay, the website is www.hangcon.com.
And then I know you want people to register. It is a free event, which is totally awesome. And you guys have been working very, very hard on what you guys are going to be doing. But you do ask people to register. So talk about that.
Yeah, like you said, it is a free event. We do that to, help people out, basically. That way, more people are, I'm not going to say more people are apt to come, but it just makes it easier. We're not trying to make any money. We're trying to be able to get people out there to enjoy, being outdoors, hanging out and everything else. Even though it is a hammock hang, event, anybody's welcome to come. They can bring tents, they can bring, whatever.
And I know you call us tent people for now, ground dwellers. So you do welcome ground dwellers. And one of the things I'm looking forward to is not only the event itself. So, all right, everybody, it is Martin Luther King weekend. Go to the website, register. It's free. I'm looking forward to the camaraderie. Because this is the time of year where, I start getting like, oh man, I really want to get back out on the trail. I really need to get out there, be with my hiking community. And not only are we going to be, with each other, but I'm going to meet all kinds of different people that are into hammocking and all types of vendors that sell all types of gear. So do you want to go over some of the vendors that are going to be there? I know it's not possible you can list them all because it seems like a lot.
Yeah, we've got so far we have. I mean, some of these vendors that we got, what we call them partners. Some are actually going to be there that are able to make it, but then others, like that I have on the website, they have all made a donation to our raffle. But some of the ones that we have, I know R&R Hammocks is going to be there. He's going to be set up. I do believe Cedar Ridge is going to be there. Dream Hammocks is going to be there. Trailheads. There's going to be several there. And I know a lot of those, you probably don't know, and a lot of your listeners may not know unless they hammock camp. But also some of the companies that have, made a donation that, that pretty much everybody should be familiar with is like ULA, Peak Refuel, Lecky, Sawyer, Farm to Feet, Light AF, Evergreen Adventure Foods. They've donated to the raffle that we have on Saturday night.
Well, let's talk about this raffle. So these partners and these individual companies have donated for this raffle. So how do people get the raffle tickets? Tell us about the raffle.
Yeah, you can, if you go to the website on the homepage down towards the bottom, it gives the information on, how to buy raffle tickets, pre-buy them, I should say, through PayPal. But we, even during the event, we sell them there as well.
Yeah, I was going to say, people have to be there for the raffle, right?
Yes. People do have to be there for the raffle.
So tell us about some of these prizes, because I know you were telling me like some Lecky poles and ULA's doing something. So give everybody a little taste.
Yeah, ULA has donated one of their Atlas packs. We have full hammock setups. We have, what else is there? You got the Farm to Feet, obviously donated some socks, to give away. Yobo gear will be there, which they make hammock stands.
Ooh, now that's interesting.
Yeah, they're very nice hammock stands. Very light. You look at them and you wonder, is it going to hold you? But I laid in it at the one of the last hangs that I went to, and very, very great gear. Definitely something that I'm going to be getting here shortly myself for my backyard, because I don't have enough trees back there.
And if you guys could see the room, Skunk Ape is recording it. I mean, he's basically got a hammock set up, right behind him, so he can hang in his house if he wants to, which I think is awesome.
I come in here a lot, and I'll lay down in the hammock and I just pass out. I actually sleep better in my hammock than I do in my bed.
Okay, you're crazy, but I'll go with it. All right.
You'll see whenever you get down there and you lay in your hammock for a couple of nights. You'll be getting home and wanting to hang yours up in your room.
I hope I love it that much. All right, so we got the raffle, tons of prizes. People will be around all weekend. Mighty Blue and I are going to do, I don't know what we're doing, hosting a couple sessions. We'll be hanging out. I know Mighty Blue is going to try to sell some of his books.
Yeah, he's going to have some of his books there to sell and probably autograph and everything. I know y'all are going to be doing the Q&A session, which from the messages that I've gotten online, there's going to be a lot of people that want to hang out and talk to y'all.
Awesome. So, hey, come on, guys. Come see us. Come, it's Florida. It's going to be warm. Come visit. Nice. So. Well, Skunk Ape, we don't want to give everything away. I mean, we don't want to give everything that's going to be happening down at HangCon, because we want people to come. We want people to join us. We want people to go online, register, see what's happening, see what's going on. And I'm going to let you go here, because I know you've been working all day, but I've been saying this for a while. I am really excited about my hammock, and you've seen it, right? Or a little bit of it.
No, I've seen it. It looks really nice. Real quick also, though, just to let everybody know, not only is the event free to come to and everything, food is provided, breakfast and dinners for the whole event. No charge to that either. Very good food. Very, very good food.
Yes, you guys, you've pumped me up about all this cooking around the fire and all this kind of stuff. So, and I'm sure you're being very COVID cautious as well, right?
Oh yeah.
That's just kind of a thing you have to do now, really.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, perfect. So listen, I'm looking forward to seeing you again. I'm looking forward to all of us hanging out. And if you guys are anywhere near, what city is it in Florida? I don't even know where I'm going.
Sorry, it's in Brooksville, Florida. So it's in Central Florida. On the website, you can go to the directions page, and I actually have the Google Maps up so you can see exactly where it's at and get directions and all that good stuff.
All right. Well, perfect. Well, listen, Skunk Ape, thank you for everything that you do for the Hiking Radio Network. You guys, he does all of our social artwork, and thank God, because I don't know anything about that stuff. And hey, listen, I'll see you here in a couple weeks.
All right. Sounds good.
All right. Take care.
All right. Appreciate it, Jester.
Thanks, Skunk Ape, for coming on and sharing more about HangCon and what people could expect for that weekend. I know you guys are sick of hearing me at this point, but I am so excited to get my hammock set up that weekend at HangCon. As always, you could go to hikingradionetwork.com and click on the Jester Section Hiker Show to find all of today's show notes, pictures, and links mentioned in this episode. If you find value in what we do here at the network, consider leaving us a donation by clicking on any one of the donate buttons found on our website. And be sure to let us know why you like our shows. Thanks for listening. Be safe out there, everybody, and happy section hiking.
I'm wondering if you'd go wandering with me through the wilderness and woods to where the winds are blowing free. through the darkness of the night, heading toward the morning light. I wonder if you'd wander with me, and I'll spread the word, and you beat the drum. We'll round up the troops and get the gang to come, and we'll leave the streets and these neighborhoods, head over the river and through the woods. You're wondering if I go wandering with you, what kind of trouble we'll get ourselves into. Would it be wrong to tag along with a band of vagabonds? You wonder if I'd wander with you. So I'll spread the word and you beat the drum. We'll round up the troops and get the gang to come, and we'll leave the streets and these neighborhoods, head over the river and through the woods. I'm wondering if you'd come wandering my way, if you ever get lost or if the trail leads you astray. The music of the pack can always bring you back. I wonder, can we wander away? And I'll spread the word